done. Right, so I got a couple of things I wanted to talk about. But we'll be before we do that, we'll try and start off with anyone got any news this week. Let's start off with Drina.
Yes, we were talking about whether pets in the past were animals in the past were pets.
Yeah.
They apparently have found that dogs were friends 12,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And they worked that out because apparently the dog, I don't know whether it ate salmon, substantial evidence in his jawbone that they ate salmon, which is not something you feed a dog normally. So it's obviously somebody feeding from the table, as it were. Maybe,
Is that those packets? So you multi-pack, you have 20 in a box from Lidl.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
So what you're saying is that they had that's actually even better. They had evidence of Lidl's back then.
Yes.
And also that they that's great. That's great. I'm really impressed by that. Well done. We're happy with that, Trina.
Okay.
Anything else you want to give it to us, darling?
No, that's it.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I bite in to give you my news. Most of it not good, but life. Margaret.
No, I've got nothing, I'm afraid, this week.
Okay, fair enough. Roger, other than the news about your the brand of Durex on your nose and other ones
I've got a new one tomorrow.
What's that?
I'm going to see Helen tomorrow to get a new one on. I thought you'd like to know, Carl. And reading the archaeology thingy, they've been talking about a thing called the Pebble Horn in Scotland, which was Bronze Age, but I'm wondering if it led into anything in the Iron Age as well, or it was just simply a Bronze Age history. I don't know if you've seen that. They found concentric circle discs and things that looked like rings, like a ring belt type of thing. You might wear things like that with exactly what it is for it. I haven't caught up with yet, but I don't know if you've heard anything about it.
No, I don't. I'm a bit confused. I'm a bit confused about that. But if you could possibly give us more when it comes out, that'd be really grand, Roger.
Yeah, that's it.
Anyway, thanks for your contribution, Roger. Not that we learned anything at all from it, but that's good, Roger. Thanks.
What?
Jay, I gotta be honest with you. Somebody's gonna say to me one day, "You are so cruel to Roger," but nobody's actually said anything yet. So I'm.
We all know it now.
I
just gotta bear it like a good soldier does.
Grin and bear it like a concert of Depeche Mode in Luxembourg in 1982. That's like talking about somebody who looks like they're from Depeche Mode and Civita.
Hello. Yes. No, I haven't anything to bring this week. No, sorry.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. And Andy's actually looking quite chic in those glasses. He almost looks like somebody out of one of those dodgy movies from the 70s. Roger, Andy.
No, I've nothing to this week, I'm afraid. What do you want?
I tell you what, that's shocking. That really is. I know Judith has got some news for us. I'm really looking forward to Judith's news. I'm building up Judith. I'm really looking forward to it, Judith. I'm so excited with what Judith has got to tell us. Anything you want to tell us, David?
Oh, sorry. No.
Right. Listen to this big news from Judith now.
Da, 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 da.
Drum roll.
I'm afraid you're going to be really disappointed. I've got absolutely nothing, and you are really mean to Roger.
Yeah, but hang on a minute. You haven't been here that long, so you're not allowed to say that. It was like working on the council bin lorries. I told you about all that, guys, didn't I? I was working on the council bin lorries for 2 months, and it was like we were going around the houses in December, and this one, and there was 3 of us on the van, and outside one house there were 4 boxes of roses, 4 boxes, right? And people, what they would do, they would sellotape envelopes to bin bags with like 50, 60 quid in it, right? Don't ask, don't even go there, right? So at the end of the day, the guy had about 200 quid and 10 boxes of roses from one customer, another customer. And I got out the van then, and the guy turned around and said to his mate, right, okay, we'll divide the £200 between you and me and the person who's not here today, who's been with us all year looking at me. And he says, right, it's 10 boxes of roses, right? We'll put them in the shed. And when at the end of the thing, and he said to me, he looked at me and said, you're having none of this because you've only been with us for 2 months.
Ah,
Shame.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I don't even know I mentioned that now, but that's life. That's life. Right. Okay. So it's been rather rough up here. We've lost a load of chickens and a few buildings down. And it's been pretty bad.
What
Roads
about your
closed.
shed?
What's that? The house I'm in? Oh, that's perfectly fine. There's no we haven't had any issues here at all. I'm no leaks, nothing happened, everything's fine. So that's been pretty good. So I wanted to start off with saying that I know everyone was thinking of me, and I know everyone called me to find out how I was, exposed up on a hill. I really appreciate that call you made, Rena, and David is fine. I really appreciate that. Margaret didn't bother to phone. Roger even didn't even think about
my own problems, Carl. I've got water coming through a light fitting in the ceiling.
Oh God.
Oh wow, that's really good. Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. Well done. That's really exciting. Don't try and compete with my news.
Phone me up and ask if I was all right. Poor old lady
honest,
on her own.
To be honest with you, I really couldn't be asked.
No, I know.
And me, sort of. Gillian's lovely. She's here tonight, so be careful, Carl. Don't overdo it.
Yeah, Roger. I'm not really. Yeah, cool. Right. I would mention on a sad note that Peter's funeral is on the 4 o'clock on the 19th of December, which is I do believe. I'm not sure if that's a Thursday or not. But everybody is invited, and his daughter said that. He's really appreciated, and they appreciated all the fun times you gave Peter, and it would have been you guys, and they understood, and this is to everybody, that they were really happy that Peter was amongst friendly people, as it were, and that was they've appreciated that. So I know most of you wouldn't be able to make it anyway, but. The thought that counts.
Yeah.
Thought that counts, and also I wanted to mention this, that with Archaeology Cymru, not the classes, and what I'm probably going to do over the next year is keep Archaeology Cymru will continue as the magazine that we sent out, and basically. Adva Hanes Cymru, the charity, will take over what's left, and obviously keep teaching these classes. So I thought I'd mention that, and that was that. So we're gonna
what about the Christmas Day dig?
All right, yeah. You've heard about the Christmas Day dig, have you?
I've had the text from you.
Right now, This is a thing. Basically, what it is that those that are subscribed to the excavation, and there's only one person who pays £10 a month, but it's to keep the excavation going, and that person will receive as soon as we've done that, they'll get photographs and stuff sent to them in the post, right? And obviously the post these days is going to cost us about £1.50 to send that. So if anyone wanted to help towards the excavation, they get an individual update on what's going on from as soon as we do it. So that's the way we've got to go forward.
So what's the payment then, Carl?
Say that, Roger.
£10 and post a month for what?
Yeah, basically, if anyone wants to set up a standing order, a regular thing for the excavation, then that money's going to be used for getting equipment and stuff, and anything left over
for the standing order, then, yeah.
And anything left over would be anything left over would then go to Adva Hanes Cymru, the charity, and go directly into that bank account. So if anyone wants to support that, they need to let me know, and I will get details over to them, Roger.
Right, thank you, Carl. You're so good.
Yeah, don't worry, Roger. Particularly when it's about money, I'll do anything. I'll do anything to keep you happy, Roger. Right.
Oh, I
Oh,
know.
okay.
Gillian, see, now she doesn't like that. I'll be careful.
Well, Gillian doesn't like the fact that you're
No,
giving money to
nagging you now.
us when it could be money spent on her. Yeah, I know she's a bit of a
That's,
gold digger.
no, careful now, careful. Getting closer. The rolling pins on the wall already. Don't soon get over there. Right.
Okay, calmly, let's crack on.
The Nick
So,
is on top.
what?
That's something you should ask me, sorry.
I don't know what's going on anymore. I really don't. Right. Okay. We don't have as many images today, but I just wanted to keep it sort of fixed, and maybe maybe I might add a few more images, but we'll see. So the question was asked, right? Was can we look at rock art in the likes of Sweden, right? And then it was then asked by the same person, could we then compare with rock art in the United Kingdom, right? And then when we think about it, this stuff is inevitably Bronze Age. However, it's very likely that some of this stuff is actually Iron Age as well. And this is in a British context, not in a Swedish Scandinavian context, right? So I think what I'd like to do is probably hover these images in front of you so you can probably see more. And it looks very much like something that you might see in Aboriginal Australia rather than anywhere else. And I thought very much that the topics that you guys come up with, and whether I can remember, we wrote them all down. They're all on post-it notes in my diary to do. I don't know who said to do what now, but we've got about 20 subjects, and obviously we've done a small number of them. And last week I did one with the coins, which obviously we need to go back to the coins in the Iron Age before we can go any further. And then there are issues then with the Iron Age that people were talking about, the tribes. And when we look at prehistory and we try to think about covering the topic, and then others are turning around and saying, can we do a bit of Iron Age in other countries? So I'm not exactly sure when we're going to go on to the Roman era. It's going to be a long time at this moment. But when anyone that is following my videos online about the Roman era in Britain and looking what I do online, I mentioned this. I've mentioned this every week for the past few weeks on YouTube. I've got a daily. I try to do a daily, but past couple of days have been a bit thing. When I do my daily video on Roman era remains, stone remains, it has to be stone remains in Britain. I'm up to 32 different stone sites in Britain, and I've got quite a lot to go. But the reason why I'm mentioning that is that that's as far as I've got. That's 32 daily things, and we do these once a week. So you can imagine the Roman stuff is going to take forever. So I'm just going to try and look at the Iron Age stuff as long as possible. And if anyone's got an Iron Age subject that they want me to do that I haven't thought of, and they think it's like something that nobody else has thought of, coming up with pets, and then coming up with rock art, and coming up with lots of the other subjects that we've looked at, may have been things that we may not have done, right? So before anyone says, oh, what can we do agriculture in the likes of the Iron Age and farming and stuff, that's coming up as well. So when we think about what, Rod?
Before you go on, that looks like a trireme, or maybe later it's not very early because of the boat ship is quite big, and whether that's supposed to be a sail in the middle, I don't know. But actually, the point is, Roger, that's exactly the point. When you look at this stuff, it looks later, when in fact lots of people are saying it's earlier, right? So that's the point. So build something as big, would they? Surely.
Let's just think that you're jumping the gun, but the reason why I'm keeping this image on there, you can probably see it more.
You can see more.
It's Scandinavia. It's not a boat. It's a sleigh.
I was going to say a sleigh.
And the point is, this is
I think
exactly
anyway.
right.
So, but
Yes,
I haven't
I
even
thought so
started.
too.
I haven't even
do
started.
do continue. We've got
Thank
it
you
sussed,
very
Rog.
much.
Not a problem. Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's fine. Don't mind me. I'll just have your own conversation like you do every week. It's okay. Don't worry. I'm just fine. So when we look at rock art in Sweden, like every piece of rock art that we usually look at, this is badly degrading. It's out in the open, usually on flat surfaces, or that's clearly a flat surface, right? And you can see there some of this stuff is quite big, and they've got like walkways over it and all sorts of things. But you can see that this is going to erode quite quickly, and it's on sandstone. And if we again looking, this stuff erodes quite quickly. So the rock art in Sweden is the richest artistic material from the north, in the sense of an Iron Age, prehistoric sense, and maybe a Bronze Age as well. This is a lot. Some of this stuff starts off in the Bronze Age. The biggest problem is when we think about rock art is the stuff outside is inevitably difficult to date, and you're not going to get precise, times in history when this was created. And what they've done, they've reddened in the space where this has been carved in the rock. So when you think about this, the depth of this is probably the original depth, but the surface that this is carved into, there may have been a millimeter that has eroded away over the past thousands of years. So the scholarship, when we look at this, we see this in the genre of art that comes from the Bronze Age. It continues into the Iron Age. It continues into the Viking period, and we can't really be specific over when lots of this was actually carved. So newer research sees the art not only as depictions of cultural rituals, but also as source material for cultural history and the sense of the world that these people lived. And this is an expression of the world that these people actually lived. The production of rock art required significant effort. Now we can't not see that. And we can also think that there is so much missing as well because of this being eroded away. And you actually, when you look at this, when you look at this quite sort of, when you look at this, your mind starts to go, and this is why I've kept this on the image. Your mind starts to go at other things on the screen. You can see, for example, that underneath there's something else, and there's things here, and there's earlier things that you can actually see, earlier carvings, and this is actually faded from view. And what history is something that does fade from view. It's not always going to be there. It's a bit like when we think about rock art from Egypt. That the cave of the swimmers in Egypt, for example, and you're thinking about that thousands of years old. And we think of the Nabatean art from 2,000 years ago. Lots of that has eroded away because it's in sandstone. But producing this and having the tools to carve into rock is inevitably using tools that are harder than the sandstone, i.e. flint, i.e. iron, i.e. copper tools, anything harder than a rock itself. The production of rock art sees them being very skilled. So they must have had important means and meaning to show us these from the point of view of the creator. And when we look across Sweden's a pretty big place, and its regional variations show that local populations, not traveling artists, were responsible for them. So this is just a place called Tanum, and we think of the Tanum stuff, and we think of this as another locality, another sense of this art. So it's showing something very, very different. So going back to the Tamum stuff, right? And looking at this, and these are very large motifs. So the main motifs are the same. The way the portrayals are different in different areas, but inevitably the main motifs are the same in all areas. What they're showing human figures. They're showing boat or sledge-like objects. They're showing, for example, other animals on these things, and again they're carved over and over again. So you can imagine, for example, that even on this surface we've shown that there's other things carved, but these are actually that there predates, for example, this, and it's trying to again place this and understand that this is not all made at the same time. History is not all created at the same time. So when again, back to that guy Tim Ingold and following the lines, this is perfect Tim Ingold, where there's a surface that's been carved in one period, and then it's been overcarved in another period, and it's been carved again. It's been carved again. So our contribution in this modern day and age is actually filling in the incisions in the rock with like this red ochre, right? So again, are we seeing a sledge? What is that little animal above? This to me looks very, if somebody handed this to me and they said, like, where is this? What part of the world is this showing? Like, what are the things on here? And you might think that actually this could be carved in Australia, and maybe similar things. This could be carved from the point of the Sand people many years before this, in the likes of South Africa, right? So and in North America as well. So you've got quite a few continents where these are actually created. So in detail and execution, however, from one locality to another, they might be the same motives, there might be the same things that they're creating, right? And again, regional variations, but the same things that are being carved, but they might actually mean different things to different people in different areas. So again, this is a very, very important thing to think about. It's like everything when we look at history, don't we? That we might look at an Iron Age bank and ditch enclosure hill fort, and for Andy it might mean something, for me it might mean something else, for them in the past in one area it might mean something, and for another area it might just seem a massive load of banks and ditches to stop foxes getting in, right? So again, when we do look at this, and when we do try to understand this, and obviously it's on this big sort of panel of rock that you can actually walk over, and then that ties us in, does it not, to what's going on everywhere when you've got this type of art. It's viewable. It's authentically there to be seen, right? And therefore I can actually make this relevant to the modern day and age, right? Those who forget the past and destroy it and make the past not relevant to them are doomed to repeat the mistakes of the past, where their own civilization will be wiped out and destroyed, and their echoes are wanted to be remembered are lost forever. But when we see this, not today, but when we see this in the past, people in the past were a lot more respectful within their environment of keeping these displays of art around them and relevant to future generations. So again, looking at this and thinking that some of these images are monumental in size, some of them are more local in size, and the most common images are people, the sense of agriculture, and we've got a sense of when we look at that, we can think maybe about stock raising or fighting. These are figures, these are people, and And look at that one over there. There's a and obviously life and death. There's a person sat alongside somebody there. So again, and obviously it's not just about seeing figures that you think you can see and understand. It's about understanding that understanding these things from their perspective. This could just be hunting? Is it fighting? Stock raising, fishing. You've got the sense of their religion, and also when we look at this next one, the in the middle there, these where there's a cross, that's known as the sun cross, right? And you can and not for show here, but we don't have cards, right? But what we do have is those are definitely ships on the left, on the right and above. Those are ships, right? And obviously what we then have is the display of some weird weapons, some axes there, and the other thing as well is I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna be very 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 daring. Hang on a minute. You know where I'm gonna go. What is this thing here, right? Is it what you think it is? A man's member, or is that simply a knife, right? Because when you actually do look at it, you've got one arm there and you've got one arm there, and that could equally be a knife. So it's, again, I'm interpreting this image. I might be wrong, but I'm interpreting it. But again, it's all up for interpretation. And when again you're thinking about this culture and this sense of allowing us to see this, and again it's with us today, right? And the imaging of ships with crews of rowers, and it's talking about, you get images of ships with large crews of rowers driving into one another, alternate with images of men wielding swords and axes. So we can go to that one, can't we? Swords and axes. There we go. You can go to that one. Swords and axes. Sometimes on horseback. Again, and when we see this, and with lots of these things, again, going back, if we can look at this. These people might not just be fighting each other. The axes might mean something else. That raised axes. What is this to do with? Could this just be displays of some kind of rather than fighting? Because those axes are not sort of hitting each other. Maybe it's some kind of a dance that we might see with some of the traditions, like the Morris dancing that survives in modern day Great Britain today. And again, talking about this as well, images of wild and domestic animals. And again, not an image of a cart, but they've got carts and ploughmen showing agricultural practices. However, there is one thing that there is no single image of in this rock art from Scandinavia. There's no images of buildings. And you'll find that in lots of cultures and civilizations on the planet. No illustrations of buildings, right? Not because they didn't live in buildings, but because they just didn't create them. They just didn't make these buildings present, right? And so when we think about this, when we think about understanding all of this, and we wish to go even deeper, that the technique, and it says here, the technique, except for northern Scandinavia, where images of the Arctic hunt were created with paint, the images are carved into rock faces. Rock faces created by glacial striation offered ideal surfaces for art, right? So some are going to be smooth and perfectly adaptable to carving. However, the hard material puts limits on what could be depicted, right? And because it is nevertheless the type of nevertheless a type of sandstone which is going to make things blunt quite quickly. But again, these are carved several millimeters. Well, I say several millimeters, probably about 1.5 meters, 2 millimeters into the rock. So, Andy, would you still say that is a sledge?
Yeah.
And why should I do? Go on.
Because it's on the right hand side it's flat, and on the left hand side it's curved up.
And why should I disagree with that? That's the whole point when we look at this type of stuff.
I don't know what the rest of it is though, because it's like it is like the boats with lots of little people in them and things, so it's quite strange. But
it wouldn't be able to float with all those holes in it.
That's a fair point. Yeah. Maybe it's an ice boat for going on the ice when the lakes are frozen, the sea's frozen.
You couldn't sit on it with all those little vertical lines on the top.
No, it would be a bit uncomfortable, wouldn't it?
Unless that's a
that could be a big fleece.
Could be.
The hairs of a fleece. The point is, again, thinking about this and going back to the point. The image is scratched a few millimeters into the stone, right? And on account of the low relief, many images are difficult to make out. And this is why when you go to museum sites like this out in the open, right, they ink them in, right, and you can see so much on there. You've got all the other little boat type figures and sledges and stuff on everything on there, and you've got that massive figure in the middle. It's like, we'll just add something else to it. So now we've got to bring in something that is very relevant, right? And what we're gonna go off piece a minute, right? We're going to completely go off piece, and this links us into right. We're over to UK, right? Now these are going to be very familiar to you. Elaborate cup and ring marks at Carn Bar in Kilmartin, Argyll, where there's thousands of these things, right? So remember, still thinking we're doing Scandinavian, but this is an example from Argyll in Scotland. Only cup and ring marks have a depth of multiple centimeters, right? So cup and ring marks have multiple depths of centimeters, right? So when you're thinking about therefore the artwork that you see in Scandinavia, right, it's only millimeters into the surface. However, if this hadn't been created, some of it a centimeter odd into the surface, right, you wouldn't be able to see it today because it would just have eroded away quite rapidly. So it's trying to work out the rule of conduct and the rule of understanding what we're actually seeing in these images, right? And it's not always that these things are very, very clear to understand and why they're there. And again, surfaces being reworked over and over again. Now, there's an interesting argument here, right? And maybe what I should do is go back to this image, right? There's an interesting argument here, right? And this is something that I did when I was at Leicester University. When I was at Leicester University, lots of my background back in the early noughties, 1999, early noughties, right, was basically, right, we should send all our art in the West back to the countries that it originally came from, right? Now everything's changed because we had the illegal invasion in 2003 in Iraq, right? But one of the things that we were doing was about rock art, right? And we were looking at legal aspects, and it was like saying, right, you've got rock art, for example, in Australia, right? And it's the same argument as returning things and keeping them in museums. In Australia, for example, we were saying, right, they've got rock art in Australia. Some of the rock art in Australia could be tens of thousands of years old, but Aboriginals are going into the rock art and painting over stuff that's 10,000 years old, right? Or they're adding to it, or they're removing stuff from the past. And archaeologists were arguing, you can't do that. You just can't do that. What are you doing, right? What are you doing, right? And the Aboriginals will say, well, this is our rock art, right? It's like we're still using this cave, right? If something's 10,000 years old, somebody was doing stuff in this cave last year. So like somebody was doing stuff in this cave 200 years ago, like somebody had been doing it 1,000 years ago, right? We're still adding to this, right? And the point is that at which point do you actually say that you can't do things, right? And for me as an archaeologist, I felt slightly uneasy about and then I looked at this and I thought, oh my God, how they can't just color in these spaces in the rock and do this. They shouldn't do this. And then I thought, well, why not? I'm not going to tell the Swedish that they can't do this, because what the Swedish want to do, they want to say, actually, look at our rock art. And there's nothing wrong with that when you think about it deeply. You should be doing this. You should be allowing people to see their history and not allow it just to fade away. Right. So there's all these political arguments in understanding this. And they're saying again, as a rule, it is not possible to determine whether images have been reworked at a later time. And that's another thing, isn't it? Right. You're looking at an image, right? This then gets really, we're getting technical and complex here. When you look at, say, for example, Uffington Horse, which is a petroglyph, right, which is technically the same as this, even though these figures might be, centimeters tall or a foot tall or whatever, Uffington Horse is quite big, right? On the side of the hill, but it's still carved into rock because chalk is rock, right? Don't care what you want to say. Chalk is rock. It's a very soft rock. So when you're carving the figure into the rock at Uffington, the Uffington Horse, right? You're digging into the rock, right? And you then fill it with very you're filling it in with chalk from another quarry, which is looks perfectly white, right? And it glows, right? And that's basically what Uffington Horse is. Right. Anyway, get to the point. So when we think about Uffington Horse, the Uffington Horse could actually be 4, 5, 6,000 years old, right? But what people have done 4,000 years ago, they've cut into the earlier stuff and made it deeper, right? While somebody did 3,000 years ago, cut into it, made it, and changed it. So we can never, because this stuff is living, breathing, and continually being created, right? We can't really determine when this stuff was really created. The point is, if you've carved something 5,000 years ago, and if somebody comes in and slightly carves into it again, right? Then that stuff that they've carved into it again 4,000 years, and then they carved into it again 3,000 years, and then they carved into it 1,000 years ago. The archaeologist comes along and says, actually, that's been carved 1,000 years ago. But in fact, it wasn't. It was originally carved 4,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago. So again, this is a huge problem when you're looking at this stuff and trying to determine when it's relevant. And this stuff is relevant to the entire time span that is being shown in front of us. There's also that sense of this living, breathing portrayal of the past that is with us today. So adding this color in here, there's nothing wrong with that at all, right? You wouldn't be allowed to do that here anyway, but they've done it in Sweden anyway. And who? Margaret.
Carl, it's me. Would they be using the original kind of natural pigments to enhance the carvings? They're not just going to slap acrylic paint on, are they?
I haven't actually. Sorry, I can't say I've done that research, but I would say that they would have used something responsible that could be removed if they so wished it. Right. So I'm looking at it from an archaeological technical point of view. You're not going to use acrylic paints. You're not going to use anything that's going to mean that if you need to remove it, it's going to damage the rock. So I can imagine that it's going to be something appropriately based, that has got enough. As you can see, lots of these rock colors are actually damp anyway. So you need to be able to put something on here that can withstand the rain, withstand frost. But if you need to remove it, i.e., by blasting it with water, it would just come out without damaging the rock, right? So that's a really, really important point. You do. It can be argued that this is going to damage it anyway, but if you don't allow people to see this stuff, it's going to get damaged anyway. So you got damaged anyway. So you've got to be devil's advocate. Most will have been made using an unmodified stone as a tool. So in other words, a stone, you find a stone, it's hard enough, right? It's hard enough. Something that's flint-like or quartz-like that could actually gouge into the sandstone. Now, unfortunately, quartz wouldn't be the best. If you could find something made of flint, it would be good, right? And actually, I would like to say that if any of you actually seen flint knapping, right? The if the tines, the heavy sort of heads of the tines of deer, right, are used to sort of nap off bits of a flint. So that's quite hard, right? But you're not going to be using that to gouge into the rock because it's just too soft. However, you don't need something incredibly hard to create these designs. So again, you creating these designs is good for flat images, and carving this out, you can. They're talking about silhouette faces as well, so these are horizontal beds, and talk about vertical beds. So only rarely do such images contain. So what they're saying is that usually these panels are like spread out and they're just endless things, right? Very rarely do they contain individual divisions. So, i.e., that bit of artwork over there is to do with this, and this little bit of artwork over here is to do with that, right? And this technique is, and you go only get dividing different panel art. That's what we're talking about. You only get panels of this stuff in only certain parts of Scandinavia, right? So occasionally the use of a sharp tool, probably made of metal, can also be detected, right? But the problem is, using metal is that metal usually gets blunted quite quick. Whereas if you've got something that's made of rock, you can just keep using it and it'll just keep sharpening itself anyway. Metal tools don't. That's the difference. So if you're using copper, a copper tool would blunt, right? An iron tool would blunt, right? Unless you've got something made of titanium, which all my new glasses when I come in, they're made of titanium, right? Unless you've got something made of titanium, it's going to blunt quite quickly. Whereas something made of rock is basically going to resharpen as you're gouging into the rock. So this is probably what we're going to do, right? So when metal is used, this is especially true of images which are carved. You've got specific things that are heavily shown and more impressionable within future generations. And when you're again, and this is another thing as well. Now, if we go back, is that carved using something made of stone, or is that carved using something made of a bronze or iron? It's really difficult. It's really difficult to tell. And what they're finding is that they do find a tool, and I don't know how they're saying this, but I'm going to say it. I can't make any sense of this next line. But they're saying that they found that one of the tools that you're using to carve this is more like a brass tool rather than a they're finding that there are different tools being created to carve this, right? Brass is using zinc and a copper rather than bronze, which has got tin and copper. right? So again, this type of art does spread into the likes of Denmark and northern Germany, for example. So again, getting a feel for this, getting into this. Most of this rock art is actually in the southern part of Sweden. So if we actually get a map of Sweden up here, which strangely enough, I don't know where my map of Sweden is. So there was a map of Sweden, and an image of Baldric. You know, I know David's going to ask at the end, how's Baldric? Baldric's fine, David. He's not going to be eaten at Christmas time. So don't worry about it. So if we type in, there we go, the Swedish rock art there. And then we're going to go, oh, let's just see what's on Google. Oh, there's a map there on Google. So it basically says there are rock carvings in all the southern and central Swedish provinces, right? And over there, there's loads of it. All the you could basically see that it's full of it. But as you start to go north of the country, there's hardly any. Right, and it's talking about all of this carving. So if I can go back to my notes on here, maybe I can explain it a bit more. So there are, as it's saying, there's lots of rock art on the southern area of Sweden and over towards the island there. And when we're thinking about this, beyond these areas, individual carvings do occur in the other bits of Sweden, but they're actually not shown on the map. And it's saying that as well as this being on sandstone, there is also on those islands there on the right there, that there's actually limestone. So this is actually carved into limestone as well. And it's saying the limestone of these islands weathers easily, and as a result, even though you've got limestone carvings, there could have been many more in the past, except the limestone on the islands, for example, has actually eroded away quite rapidly, right? So anyway, back to that. So I'm just gonna change my screen over. And anyone's welcome to say something at this stage. And I've got more meaning at the site of Littlespee, the rock art of the spear god, right? And this is where we're going to go next. So if we go those other images, which are actually.
Can I ask a question before you've lost them?
No, you can't. I'm not really interested in what you've got to say. Oh. But carry on then. What do you want to say, Anne?
Well, you know, on the where they had the sort of looked like men mounted on horses or something. And
do you want to go back to that? Let's go. Hang on. No, this is what we're actually. This is what we're going to do now. So I want you to put your stake into it, Anne, right? And then we'll have a chat.
What I noticed was several of the people are holding what looks like maybe a spear and a square sort of boxy shaped thing, which could be something like a shield in an inappropriate place. But what else could that be? I've puzzled over that.
Well, actually, do you want to keep your mic on there, and I will use and abuse you now, okay, Anne? So this is actually actually, this has worked quite well now. You actually asking a question about something which we're actually going to do now, and we can discuss it as we go along. So that's ideal, Anne. You're coming at the right time. Yeah, Roger never does this. You very sensible there, Anne. Littlespee. This is in Littlespee, which is Litsleby. If anyone wants to look, that's a site known as the Rock of the Spear God. You can see they got spears. So the Rock of the Spear God, gods. There's more than one there, right? So this motif here, right, is at a place which is at Littlesbee's site known as Tenglenby, and this is known as the remarkable rider motif, right? And we can't deny that. Obviously, it is there's loads of riders there. You know, as we said, and it says there are 8 riders, right? So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? 8. Oh, I should have said, can you spot the other one there, right? Because the one on the right there isn't as obvious that there's 8 of them, right? 5 of which are armed with javelins and shields, right? So what you've got there, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? but 1, 2, 3, 4 have got shield, but hasn't got a javelin, right? It's only got a shield, right? But that might actually be because it's been eroded away. We don't know, right? So the riders carry rectangular shields, and it says the rectangular shield of the Celtic type of rectangular shield, which is not something that we mentioned, because obviously it's Scandinavia. It says Celtic type, so Celtic style. So that's all right. So these became popular in the early part of the Iron Age and replaced the round shields of the Bronze Age. Right, so that's rather interesting. Interesting point there. And why that happened, I don't think I could do a full class on that, but that's again very interesting. So before we go on any further, does that help where we are a minute with you, or is there something else that you want to chuck in there? You go, keep with us.
No, that was what was puzzling me. Those shields, I thought that they're an unusual shape, and they're holding them in an unusual place for a shield.
Can I tell you what I thought when I saw them?
Yeah, go on then.
They're not holding them like a shield, are they? They don't look defensive at all.
No.
They look like they're holding something up. I mean, oh God, you know my brain. It doesn't work at the
enemy
best times.
spears are coming out of the sky.
Looks like they're triumphant. It's a trophy of some kind.
Maybe. Or are they making use of the low sun? Are they blinding the prey animal with like a mirror of some description, to dazzle it so that they can, I can't, I don't know. They don't look like shields to me.
Let David say something a minute. David, you jump in there.
The enemy spears are coming out of over their heads. So they've got the shears up.
And maybe they're trying to protect themselves. And in fact, there's also the point is, David, who are the enemy? And that's who are the enemy on there. But there is, I think, the one point is what we have on there. And again, is this going to come up in my reading in a moment? Right, like we'll just think of that. So we've got to think: is this a battle scene? Right, if this is a battle scene, there's nobody on the back of that horse, so we're getting close. That person doesn't have a shield or a spear. They've gone, right? That person doesn't have a shield or a spear. The one thing that you can remark on this is that all of these have similar weapons. So if they were fighting, they're fighting similar people, right? And again, there is lots to be said about this, right? And if somebody wants to say something else before I tell you another interesting point, right? This next point is really key. Go on, chuck it in there.
The riders have no legs.
Oh,
does that mean they're kneeling on the horse? There's no reins. There's no way of holding onto the horse. I mean, I know American Indians could control and didn't have a saddle, but they have no legs, so there's no control on the horse.
And have you noticed? This isn't a smutty thing, right? That one has a piece of anatomy, right? But none of the others do.
Yes.
Right. So that is actually quite specific. That one has a penis, and all the others don't. What is specific about that?
How could the others be mad?
Well, you got you've got a stallion and the rest are mares. That's all really odd. But there is something that I haven't told you yet, right? The domesticated horse arrived in southern Scandinavia. This is where most of the panels are carved. Let's do that again. The domesticated horse arrived in southern Scandinavia sometime, right? We're thinking about 4,000 years ago, right? Now, the thing is, the big problem is with all of this, right, is that when is this carved? Because we're talking about lots of these carvings coming to us roughly about 1,500 years BC, or maybe 500 years BC, 2,500 years ago. So that means that the horse has already been in Scandinavia for about 1,000 years. So the horse became very important in local mythology because it was part of mythology because it was there. right? So a domesticated horse is not, when you say something's domesticated, right? You either milk it, you eat it, you ride it, or it's like something special, right? Or all of those things at the same time, right? The concept of something being holy and then eating it is a bit weird, but then again, you might. So look at again, remember a remarkable rider motive. This is what we're calling it. So it was the horse that, together with the ship, pulled the sun across the sky. Right? That's we're talking about mythology, right? Again, this sense that we have mentioned the other rocks actually, because we've not mentioned the other rocks. So the other rock art there. So when, oh, hang on a minute, get off that a minute. I'm going to come back to this in a moment, right? So that there, you've got clearly boats, right? You've got the idea of the boats, and then you've got the idea of the men and the horses. Now, when was all this being created? There's something fascinating to say about the boats, and maybe Andy can have his moment with the boats in a short while. So this idea that the horse is, somebody actually, who actually said earlier on something about chucking the spears up at the sky? Did somebody say that?
Like a trophy.
David did. Go for it.
They just look as if it looks triumphant. You know, raising everything up in the air.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, David?
I said they're throwing the spears through the air, therefore they keep the shields in the air. No good putting the shields down by your chest if it's going to hit you in the head.
That is really useful, right? There's 2 points here. There's 2 points that there is no spears by themselves, right? Except and I don't know if any of you are seeing what I'm seeing, right? But if you look at that and you squint your eye, there's a lot more going on, right? Because right, okay, this is where it's getting more complex, right? So what you can see is what the archaeologists want you to see, right? But if you look at this a little bit more deeply, right? If you look at this a little bit more deeply, it's losing it, right? But if you look at this a little bit more deeply, you can actually start to see other things, right? There might be other figures on here, right? And look at that there. That might be another spear. because if you start to look at that individual might actually have a spear, right? So we're not everything is visible, right? And the other thing as well is, was all this carved at the same time? And we can't answer that point, and then we just can't answer it. Anyway, we're going to crack on. We're going to crack on with that bit, right? So so the art of riding came fairly late. So that ties in with the point of kneeling on a horse, right? So now what we need to do is, we can't see the legs, right? So Adrena said you can't ride a horse without you having your legs over the side of the horse. But there are people who are disabled without legs who can ride a horse, right? Now, yeah, you can see it in the Paralympic Games. It's doable, right? You can do it without stirrups and all sorts of things, right? So what we're gonna do, right? We're gonna go onto Google, right? I like it when we get a silly question like that. I want to see if it is somebody knows the answer to this already. You can see, again, back to that, you can see where all the art is in Sweden. It's all mainly all in the south, and they've got the horses there. So the horses must have come over via water, right? Or did they come down from the north? But we don't really know about that, right? Anyway, so if we're going to type in the question, right? This is where it gets good. Can you ride a horse? Now, how do I put this into words? Can you ride a horse?
No legs.
All right then. Okay, we'll just keep it easy with no legs. All right then, easy.
Like the horse
The rider has no legs. Yeah.
The horse has got 4 legs.
Hang on a minute. Can you ride a horse Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Hang on. Let's do this. Right. Can you ride a horse? No, you can't ride a horse with no legs because the horse can't go anywhere. Right. Can you ride a horse? Shut up, you. With a person. Roger, you really screwed this up for me now. It made me look like a right fool. Can you ride a horse with a person with no legs? Thank you. You didn't say that.
I did. You didn't listen because you're raving and gone off.
It just shows somebody disabled.
There you go. Yes, a person with no legs can ride a horse with the help of a specialized adaptation and training. Right. Okay. Let's just see if we can find an image.
Yeah. They're not all going to be disabled, though, are they?
No, they're just riding without a saddle. You have to wrap your legs around the girth of the horse to stay on it when you do that.
Yeah.
So that's why you're not seeing them out the bottom. So
perhaps the artist just likes minimalism.
Yeah, well, horses aren't very realistic either, are they?
No, I think it's
Hang
just
on, hey guys,
they look like llamas.
The horses showing long necks.
Look, guys, there are no llamas in Scandinavia. Let's just focus. That image there shows that you don't need your legs dangling over a horse to ride it, right? So the next question is, right? Can you kneel on a horse and ride it? That's what I wanted to put. Yeah. That was the original question.
Yeah, of course you can. You can stand on them.
Yes, you can.
Well, why did you say that in the first place, you fool?
In the circus.
The horses look stationary, don't they? They're not moving.
How do you spell kneel? Oh, no, there you go.
N-W-L.
All right. Oh, my God, you guys are really pushing it tonight. Can you kneel? Is that right? Yeah. Kneel on a horse.
Of course you can.
With
an knee.
Well, so one of you didn't think we could, so shut up. I'm just trying. There we go. Oh, that horse has had enough there, that bloody donkey. There's nobody kneeling on a horse. But I've actually seen people standing on a horse, so there we go. Well, hang on a minute. Hang on. The point is, right, hang on a minute. There is a point to all this, right? I think somebody said that, right? In most of these images, you can't see the legs hanging below the body.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
So in other words, right? All right, in other words, right? Yeah, you don't show legs because they're not shown when you're riding it.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
I tell you what, right? You really messed it right up now, Gina.
Well, I'm glad we sorted that out.
Yeah.
I wish, Andy, I wish I hadn't even. Roger, you could shut up. I wish we hadn't even started that one, right?
What about those troops before with their own shields and that, and the special helmets and all sorts?
How do you know they're horses?
They still look like llamas to me.
Yeah, I'm just thinking they look more like a llama, don't they?
Got very long necks, haven't they?
Right, guys, there were no llamas, right? End it, right?
It would be reindeer.
We're getting into a certain person's world theory of super race, aren't we, again?
Okay, then we're going to ask this question, right? Can you ride a reindeer? We're going to do it. No, I'm serious. We're going to do
it. An impala.
Who cares about impala, right? You're really taking the mickey now. Can you ride a
reindeer?
Oh my God, reindeer. That'll do.
Yeah.
No, yes, you can. There they are. He's riding a reindeer.
Oh, brilliant. Have they all got antlers though? Because those horses.
Reindeer ride.
They're rocking antlers, aren't they?
I tell you what, you wouldn't really want to upset that bloody reindeer. That guy's tiny. He's a blooming midget. His legs don't even.
Riding mares, not the males have less horns, are they?
No, that's a male.
Yeah, I know. They should probably riding mares. They're less temperamental than these boys. And
we know they're mares in the picture because they haven't got those bits on them, have they? Apart from that one.
What bits is that then?
Reindeers haven't got long necks.
No, they haven't.
Do you know what? Right? Do you know what? yeah, I know I got special needs, but it gets worse every week.
That's the challenge.
I got to tell you this, guy. I got to tell you this, guys. Whenever I go over to my parents' house, my mum saying, "Oh, well, what are you doing now?" I'm doing my OCD thing. I says, "I got special needs," and my mum says, "Oh, well, your dad's got special needs as well. Why didn't you get help for him? I got special needs, haven't you, to deal with you lot?"
AI is going to have fun with this.
Yeah.
Like, okay, AI is going to correct us all. Do you know what? This paragraph on these horses, right, is actually 100. Well, it's about 120, right? I have spent 15 minutes. Right. The art of riding came fairly late, right? And that is a fact, because the school of thought is that the first thing that we did with horses, right, was actually milking them, right? We used to milk horses, right? Horses were like, and the milk apparently is really rich and it is good for you, right? And the fact of the matter is, the first milk and the first cheeses and the first butters were actually made, that we do believe, were actually made of horse milk, right? And then some way along the line, the horse itself, it's meat, right? And obviously, somewhere along the line, it's a draft animal, and somewhere along the line, it's being ridden, or they discovered all those at the same time. Right. So it was the horse that, together with the ship, pulled the sun across the sky. The art of riding came fairly late. Most likely, humans didn't learn to ride until the Bronze or the Iron Age, particularly in places like Sweden. Right. And when you think about it, this is the problem. I've just put something in your minds, right? You don't think about people riding reindeers, but you've actually just seen images of people riding reindeers, right? So why aren't reindeers the animal of choice to ride? You know, you don't hear about it, but we've just seen it, right? So in prehistoric times, horses were sometimes sacrificed, right? Okay, why? We don't, yeah, that's just suggested. As part of the ritual, the horse meat would be eaten, while the head and lower legs were sacrificed to the gods in lakes and waterways, because we found those bits of the body. But then again, when you think about it, there's not much flesh on a horse's leg, right? And other than the brain in the horse's head, there's not much flesh either, right? So, you might eat the animal and said, "We'll just toss these legs into the lake." Except my parents were so poor when I was a child. My parents used to give me pig trotters to eat, whilst they ate joints of pork and various other things, because they said they couldn't afford meat for me, so I used to eat pig trotters. I don't know why that was. Anyway, there wasn't a lot of meat on them, by the way. When Christianity was introduced, eating horse meat became taboo, as the priests saw this as a pagan custom, right? So I don't know if that's true or not, but the horse itself is very important to Scandinavian society. Yeah. So I'm not really sure, because I've been speaking for a whole hour plus.
Yeah.
Shut up, Rog. So yeah, have you noticed, right? Have you noticed that yeah, we should actually record these and shorten them a little bit and put them out on the internet. They even Neil Oliver might come back, right? Yeah, I think he was put off that time that it was like Margaret was going.
What?
Yeah. Anyway, we're gonna take a break now. We're gonna find out if there's any questions, and yeah. In future, when somebody sort of interrupts and we go off on a tangent, I'll do that more often, except when Roger goes off on a tangent. I don't really care what he's got to say. Right, anyway, talking about what Roger's got to say. Roger, do you want to say anything?
Yes, those images where they were standing up before all the horse things started, it looked like they had round shields, and the helmets looked a little bit like they were...
Hang on a minute, what are you looking at?
The Normans.
What are you looking at?
Standing with 3 or 4 warriors.
Hang on, Katrina's got her hands in. Where? They're not round, they're square.
No, before that.
Oh,
the
right.
standing.
There.
What there?
Then you see the top of the head, some are protruding. It's like the nose guards the Normans had, didn't they, later on? And they were from Scandinavia anyway. That looks like the axes, the axe heads, shaped more like modern ones, tapering to the slot with the handle.
Yeah.
And rather than just a clump of something crude, more pronounced than the earlier stuff, even the bronze axe heads and stuff. They were more fashioned. Right? So there are differences there. Now, on the small round shields, they had them on the Viking ships with round shield, I think, but not as bigger than that. With a cross on there. Now, whether that's just design, nothing special or not, I don't know. But there's something there which shows them as more modern, fighting with these fashioned axes, more modern type axes, if anything. And the helmets could be with that nose piece, like introduced somewhere along the line. So I don't know what that means, giving it a more modern touch to me. I wonder if that's anything or it's been disproven somewhere.
We actually don't know. We actually don't know when everything's being created on this, right? We don't know when everything's being added. Maybe at some stage, the ships were added, or maybe the ships are first. For example, on this, it's a shame we haven't got a more clearer one. We've got this massive giant figure in the middle of all these ships, right? So obviously that giant figure comes next. And also what you can clearly see is that there is other carvings on here, but they've chosen to show us some of the carvings, right? And not have all the carvings shown at the same time. There's a point to be made with this that that if you look at if you think of pigments and how things are added, right? Maybe everything was being shown at the same time, and what they did, the earlier stuff was like brown, and then the stuff that they added was green and red. You may have had a composite of art at the same time. This idea of this idea of Tim Ingold is you've got a blank palette, and then you've got something on top, and then that's still there, and you've got something on top of that, that's still there, and so the stuff underneath part of the next period, and then and it's all these layers together, and that's what history is about. And what we're seeing now.
There's been studies in the past where, with cutting stone, they can examine the surfaces to see the age from the light effect on the stone. I don't know what they call that, but it's something to say, this is more modern because of the effect of the resident part of the stone after the sunlight. So I don't know if that's something can be used or has been used, perhaps to give away where they've cut into the stone, and it shows it's older than other stuff if you can detect that optical change. I don't know.
Yeah. The problem is with this optical luminescence and thermoluminescence data. It's just that the problem is when you right. Okay, if you think of, let's draw this on the screen, right? So say for example you've got a groove, right? That's what the groove looks like today, right?
Yeah.
So in the past, the groove was like there. So that's basically 4,000 years old, right? So it became very much deeper. So this groove is only 2,000 years old, right? So the presence of that and the depth of that has been removed, and therefore the art inevitably only looks like it dates from 2,000 years ago, except it was created 4,000 years ago. That's what I was talking about when we think about the Uffington horse. However, all you're going to have in a groove like that is what is the date of that patina in there, right? That's the latest patina that you've got. That late patina, except what you might have, which we're talking about rock art, right, in caves, is that you've got something like that. Oh, let's just do it the other way around. You've got like a that's the face, right? That's the face. You're looking at it, so you're looking at the face like that, right? That's actually for the face of the rock, right? So what happens is that you've got the mudstone itself, and you've got all the minerals which actually coat the outside with a mineral layer, right? And then over that you've got another layer, and over that you've got another layer, and that's not even a millimeter thick. That's like 0.1 whatever of a millimeter, right? So each of these layers has a date, right? Starting from the last layer, and then you work out the time it would take to create another layer, and the time it would take to create another layer. And then you're talking about the other science of thermoluminescence dating and all the rest of it. So yeah.
Yeah. And the last point was, before we leave it,
there's another point, is there, Roger? For God's sake,
just a quick one from Andy's point about sledges. On the bottom of those you thought was a boat with the up-ended, I think they are more likely to be sleds. It's on that photograph. You can see it at the bottom.
Do you know, we haven't got many images. I'm so pleased we haven't got 50 of them. Flipping out would be all year. Right, which image you're talking about, Roger?
On the bottom left there, they're like curved up at the ends.
These?
No, there's something else, not something else. Keep going. There. What's that there? Yes, there.
There.
No, back again. There.
Yeah.
They look like sleds that curved up at the ends and stuff, rather than boats because they're quite plain.
Yeah, I see what you mean, like a framework. Yeah.
I think that's your point. I think that is it.
Yeah, it looks like a specific framework. Right, yeah, I can see what you're saying.
I think it's a point that Andy's made. There are sledges, which we expect in the cold country. And that's where they are, because there's nothing much else with it. The other ones, to me, look like triremes or something, but who knows? That's it.
Oh, cheers, Rog. Thanks for all that. I'm glad you finally made a contribution, Roger. Yeah.
Well, I have to sort of think it through and not rush it.
Yeah, unlike Judith, who just jumps in there. Right, no, talking about Judith, anything you want to say, Judith?
Yeah. Going back to the three figures with very long legs and tiny little heads.
Oh, not those blooming things again.
Yeah, you know when you're a kid and you're fascinated by your shadow at sunset as it gets really elongated. It looks to me like somebody stood on there and drawn a picture of their own shadow as the sun's behind them. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, nice idea.
You know,
nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're talking about the ripple effect. We looked at this ripple effect when we looked at the
what it's called, yeah.
Well, when we looked at Brittany and examples in France and so on, but basically what you've got like the concentric circles. You chuck something in the water and then there's a circle and it gets bigger and bigger. That idea of the concentric circle, the ripple effect, right? We looked at that before. And when you look at it, when actually, guys, right? If all of you step away. I'm doing it now, right? If all of you lean back, don't lean off your chair and bang your head. If you lean back, you can. That actually looks like a shadow. Yeah, it does. It clearly looks, and you actually got more of a perspective when you lean back rather than right up in your face. Yeah, that really makes sense.
And they do have a low sun there, as well, don't they?
Yeah, yes, they do. I wondered if it was something to do with like a sun. Because the more northerly you get, the more important the sun becomes. And it's literally life and death, isn't it? So maybe it was like a ceremony as the sun became its low.
Absolutely, it gets dark for part of the year there as well. Yeah.
It will be a scary time of year, won't it?
Yeah.
I tell you what, I tell you what, one thing, it's like living here now. It's like it's starting to get dark, as you know, at 4 o'clock, and you know it's sort of still slightly darkish at 8, right? And and now we're going to lose another hour between Christmas, so that's 7 hours of light out of 24 hours, and that's you know you start to feel it and see it, you know. And I can imagine these people. That's a good way of looking at that. Right. Okay then, guys. I'm not going to go back to the images. Anything you want to say, David?
Thank you.
Right. Anything you want to say, Andy?
No, thanks. It's already been said. Thank you.
Oh, good. I hope Roger's made his contribution. What about you, Gobby, Judith?
She's
gone.
Yeah, she
Did
just
she?
yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to give her more time, Anne.
No, I think that was lovely. That discussion has opened up. I think it kept us going a long time. Really interesting.
Yeah, I think it did. Anne, you're looking gorgeous today, unlike Rog. Drina.
No, nothing to say. Thank you.
Right. Actually, I've got to say something cute to Drina. Your glasses look gorgeous. Talking about not being haggard, Margaret, your hair's looking pretty good as well.
Thank you. No, I've got nothing to say for a change.
Good. I've got to say something nice to the boys later on. It'll come. It'll come. Roger, can I ask something about your glasses? Have you got sellotape in the bridge of those glasses?
No, I've got a other tape to stop them slipping on my little nose.
Oh, right. Okay.
You want to know that?
Right, guys, we're gonna have a 10-minute break, and
oh no.
Maybe you could join me. It's quite simple, this next bit. Let's have a bit of music. Right, here we go. Join in. Bum, 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 bum,
Let me tell you what. Time to sing. Oh dear.
I didn't recognise that tune.
You can't, because that is my own composition from years ago, and that was used that was going to be used in the Time Adventurers series that we wrote for Scottish television that didn't actually get there finally, but that would have been part of a TV series.
I think it's begging for a flute accompaniment.
Yeah, Michelle said that. Michelle said that exactly. I tell you what, if anyone can play a flute, right, we'll have a jam one night. Let me know.
No, I'll be out.
I'll bring my tambourine.
Oh, tambourine man. Oh, can I just mention one thing? Right?
No.
I only sent this to Andy because Andy's very special needs to me. And I said, what if we organised a trip to York in the future, right? But obviously Andy's a bit busy at this minute and stuff. But I basically said maybe it's possible. You guys get over to York. I get to York. We could have a full day of it, right? We could have a bit of the old wander down the shambles and look at the wall and all the rest of it, But think about that in the future when everybody's a little bit more settled and life's a little bit more easier. Then that'll be good.
We've done York already.
You've got to do it with me.
Oh, but not with you. No, not with you.
You've got to do it with me and my enthusiasm and my complete bent. And what we'll do, we'll go through the streets, me and Anne with our tambourines, and we'll be doing that all day. It'd be great.
Well, the Salvation Army.
Yay!
Yes, yeah. And I'll be with Judith as well. Judith will be game for this. She can look like the death warmed up. We'll go, drag out, you're dead. Bring out, you're dead.
Take it, Carl.
Exactly. Right, guys, we're gonna have a 10-minute break now, so I'll be back soon.
Okay.
Won't be too late tonight because I got to rest.
But you've got to go, have you, Rog?
Not yet, though.
All right, we'll have a 10-minute break. We'll be back. Rog, shut up. We'll have a 10-minute break.
Chat to Jill. Tell you. Right.
I tell you what, right? Jill's got a lot to put up with you.
Oh. You got what? You got water. I got tea. All of these chocolates on there, they take cobble any time or for Christmas. Oh, well, you got yours there. I'll get another one. Okay. I'll try and help them be. Rhyme and nuisance. Yeah. What? I had some left and down the wardrobe. Yeah. And then go for it. And he showed them. Yeah. What? Your pants. Oh. Oh. Good. Burns. Fitters.
What?
Mm. Oh.
Drina,
Yes.
are your quilts always like patchwork quilts, or do you do kind of designs, sew designs on them? Do you just, is quilting just squares?
No. You'll have to come round one day and have a look at them.
I will.
Give me notice. I've got a lot on shelves.
How many have you got there?
I don't know, quite a few.
Oh, why don't you sell
I just
them?
I just like making them. I don't know. It's finding a market for it, isn't it? How do you sell them? I don't know.
Well, I've got loads of paintings that
we could sell them for you on. We could sell them quite easily for you on Etsy because
on
we've got
Etsy?
accounts.
Yeah.
Shows and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I have looked at quilts that are for sale. Being big-headed, they're not as good as mine, but they're not.
Well, yeah. Get a decent price for them.
Well, yeah.
You'd have to charge a fortune.
Well, if you were going to get the money back for your time, you'd never sell them because
no, you wouldn't. No.
Well, perhaps you could explore it a bit everywhere to see what prices are charged and things like that.
Yes,
and everything.
Yes.
Because if they're nice, Drina, you could make a nice little business for yourself without straining yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's in your control.
Well, they're only on a shelf. I mean, my pleasure's in the making. So once I've made them, that's.
Oh yeah, I guess. Yeah.
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 Oh, good luck. That sounds good.
One day.
Show us one day, one night.
Yes.
You got a woman in our church too.
Really
she does a lot of tapestries and stuff. Very clever.
Yeah.
Very clever.
Drina's quilts are something to behold. They really are wonderful things, and they're worth a lot more than people give for them. They really are superb.
We had a lot of people with sewing skills in our family, grand one and the other.
Yeah.
So I sort of brought up with people doing things, and I thought, oh, that's clever. But these days, no one seems to bother much.
No.
Throw it away and carry on.
Everything's become very plain these days. The fashion is to have very plain things.
It's quick and easy, I think.
So yeah, when they buy a quilt, they want it to be plain rather than fancy. The embroidery's gone completely out of fashion. There used to be embroidery all over the house, and now all the antimacassars and chair backs and cushions have gone, more or less. Everything's become plain. Yeah. So that the market isn't quite there. Most of it anyway is gone.
That's true. That's what I've seen in certain places, and that's it. It's rare. A friend of mine, she used to do a lot of one of the stitching skills. I don't know what you call it, into a picture. Sewing the thing into a pattern. There's a name for that. It's cross stitch or what, but make it into a sort of picture hang up on the wall. I had to. Very clever. She used to do it all the time in certain breaks in work.
Yeah.
Relax at home. Very, very clever. And in fact, a couple I knew, he's gone now, but he used to do that type of thing himself.
Yeah.
Very unusual for a man because mostly I've got the patience, I think. But he was very clever.
Yeah.
But like yourself, you got that certain skill for the detail and the patience to follow it through regularly with imagination, because you've got to see something nice to see, but it takes a lot to create that item, and it's very clever. Like to see it. I can't sew anything, but what's done the artwork I like. Well, how many do you think you've got? Is it some hundreds or?
Oh no, not that many. Maybe 20, something like that.
Oh,
yeah.
I know some people, they'll take a whole room for collections.
Oh yes.
I've got some collections, small amounts of this and that, but nothing that grand. But for bigger items, it could soon fill up the space.
Yeah.
Especially if you're on your own spare bedroom, it'll consume the thing with like a permanent display gallery.
Yeah.
It sounds all good, guys, and
yeah, it's excellent. It's very clever. Seeing the effect. Because we got it in our circles. There we are.
Cracking on.
Yeah.
Cracking. Oh, by the way, there's a guy online. He says good evening to Roger. He says I'm being really horrible to Roger and I should apologise to him.
You got to be tough in this world.
You do.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, let's crack on to the next bit. We
cry on my own.
Poor Roger.
You know what? Right, I had a secret message off Anne in the break. She said she's going to get a little penny whistle, and we're going to do a proper little ditty. We are.
I haven't got a penny whistle, but I've got a recorder, which I can't play very well.
That'll do. Oh, one of these.
What's with this rusty hat on again?
I did used to have a penny whistle. I don't know when it lost it.
Yeah, I've got one. The flagellator. Some.
Flagellation.
But I do still have my tambourine. That works very well.
Oh God! All right. Anyway, so we're gonna crack on with the last bit, and let's crack on. Let's. We're gonna lead to something at the end, right? And we'll probably do that again. So. You'll see it, the last images of tonight. So, oh God, where am I? Where's my notes? Right. Yeah, I'll give you a clue. In stone carving, there are a number of simple stone heads that were carved in the Iron Age from Scotland, right? And I'm thinking that there are lots of stone heads which have been carved in the Iron Age across Britain. So I'm thinking that maybe we might come back to that, and obviously. We need to look at Pictish art from Scotland, but we look at a little bit of art stuff after this anyway from the British context. Right. So anyway, closing on this. Obviously, these are all from a site known as the Rock of the Spear God at Littleby in Sweden, and Littleby is one of those sites. The Littleby Rock contains the largest figure from Sweden, and that figure itself, amazing enough, that red figure there, that huge red figure there, is a whopping 2.3 meters high. Wow. Right, Drina's ideal man. Right there it is. He is called the Spear God, and guess what? He's actually got a spear. Right? Do you know what? Right, I want to see that a little bit more clearly. I'm just going to go onto Google now, and we're going to see if we can get a more clearer image than that. I don't think it's going to be too difficult to type in. So if we type in the spear God, right? If we type in the spear God, right, we might get a better image. I'm really disappointed in that image. The spear God. If we type in, we type in the location, which is LITS. That's a LEBY, the BY, typical Scandinavian. And that's Sweden. I reckon, right, we're going to get a better image than that. Let's just see if we can get it. There.
Where?
Oh, there he is.
Hey.
I like the jib of that. Actually, I'm liking the jib of that one there, or the jib of that one. Let's go with that one. Right. So there it is. Now, you know the one thing I mentioned earlier on. So, right. Judith put in the notes, and she mentioned, obviously, is this done in sort of the midwinter months when the light's really low, right? Because you can see that, and it like stretches across. And again, 2.3 meters high. He is called the Spear God, and is thought to represent another being, a god. This was this was a natural spirit that had become increasingly influential over the life and humans, and was therefore depicted in an oversized format. So the reason why it's oversized is it is a god, some say. Some researchers believe that the Norse religion practiced by the Vikings date back a lot longer. This carving indicates that the Vikings themselves based their mythology on things that dated way back, not just to the 500-600s, but dated way back into the Iron Age. This is what they're saying. So these figures, all these representations, give a sense of Ragnarok, that great sort of god in Viking mythology, the Ragnaroking sort of sense of gods, and that obviously goes way back, and it's a great figure. This, so they're saying that all the Iron Age stuff leads to the Viking gods, and as we know, this is the point, we know about Odin and Thor, Ragnarok and so on. We know what these gods were about, right? And the attributes that these gods had, right? And then we think about the spear there, or an axe. It's a spear in this case. Is the figure before us an early Odin, whose attribute was the spear? Now that's the thing. Thor with the axe, hammer, or whatever. Maybe going back into German mythology where you got Wayland Smithy, but obviously we're looking at Scandinavian. The spear itself is associated with Odin, and and the point that I made earlier on was that this figure is carved above figures that had existed before, right? So you've got this like boat-like thing, right? And obviously, yes, that's clearly a penis there. Roger, don't get too excited, Rog. We're putting a penis in there. And then you've got... Please, Roger, if there's children watching, it's terrible. Right, there's an animal like there, and you obviously got the boat. So this figure itself is dominating what was there before. And in a way, that has another significance. It's almost as if saying, this figure has entered the picture and I dominate everything before me, right? And that could be the case, right? Even these things hanging below his arm are obviously part of another figure that existed beforehand. Probably that thing there is like the sledge-like thing, and in fact, it's all over the place. It's all based, but look at the end of that spear, right, and look at the hand. Look at the detail in the hand. So this figure is very significant and very important when we look at the raison d'etre and the genre of what we're seeing. So again, reminder: this 2.3 meter figure, and then we go on to the other slide that I want us to see, right? So let's go back to where we were. And this image here. I'm not going to look up another one of these because that's pretty good. So what we've got with this, it's talking about these two big ships. And it's talking about their shield-like figures on these ships, right? So when we talk about shield-like figures, you can see one there on the stern or the aft, or whatever you want to call it. The prow and the aft. Shut, Rod. We don't know which way this is orientated, whether this is a ship, but they're saying it is. So we've got these ship-like figures there, and it's these shield-like figures on the prow and the aft, and you're thinking again that this is like a segmented figure. This shield, it is segmented, right? And they're talking. The writer goes off on one here. So basically referring to these segmented figures, right? Some of these, you can see that the segments there are different from the segments there, right? And the segments there are different from the segments there. So these circular things, right? They've got different number of segments in them, and they're saying that could be significant. They're saying that one of these shield-like figures has 7 segments, another has 9, and 2 of them have 13 segments, right? That one at the bottom on the right has 13 segments. and they're referring to this, you know, that these look like stone circles. These look like those circular monuments with standing stones, which existed before the Iron Age, still around to these people as well. So there is a connection between this ship, and they're saying that those very segmented circles could represent the journey of life and the journey of death. Do you remember earlier on it was talking about these ships bringing life, and the horses bringing life, but also when life, if you think about this analysis, I know Anne's going to love this. Where you've got life, you've got death. If you've created life, you've got death. The end of life is death. So you bring a ship, and you've got these circular things, and unknowingly or knowingly, we think of stone circles associated with the afterlife, don't we? So again, the circle represents the grave, and the ships may represent the journey. Some say not the journey to life, but the journey of death, right? So in other words, those figures, two figures on the one at the bottom and the two figures on the one on the top, represent individuals who are traveling into the afterlife. That's an idea. Now, moving away from that, as we've seen with some of the other images, the ships in this carving and the ships in the other carvings, ships in this carving, they say stylistically, from the way they look, and the dating aspect, date from roughly sometime around 500 to the birth of Jesus Christ, right? So 500 years BC to the birth of Jesus Christ. And they're also talking about something that I'm going to look up and show you, right? We're going to go back to Google, right? And naturally, I didn't think we were going to get, you know, onto all of this, so I didn't get this ready either. But if we type in this, there's a specific boat from Denmark, right? And Denmark's not too far away from Sweden anyway, so it's known as the I get to type it on, and then I will pronounce what this is, and it comes up straight away, the Hirter Spring boat, right? So Hirter Spring boat, and there it is, and that is a Hirter Spring boat, right? So can you see where there's a link between the images and that? So in other words, they were trying to create a 3D style. So if we look at that, there's the Hirter Spring boat, which we could have actually done a whole talk on. And actually, I'm going to go off on tangent now, and we're going to tell you a little bit about this because it's Iron Age anyway. And I know some of you are massively into your boats. So the hang on, how do you spell it, guys? Hirter Spring.
I don't know.
Hirter Spring boat. Yeah. Denmark. Hirter Spring. No, I spelt it wrong. Hang on a minute. Boat. I spelt it bore. Yeah, the Hirter Spring boat. Hang on a minute, guys. I got to get this a minute. The Hirter Spring. Right, the Hirter Spring. Right. I'll tell you a little bit about this boat now, whilst we got the image up there. The H J-O-R. Right, the Hirter Spring boat. And there we go. Oh, hang on. There's an example of the bits that they found. It says that the Hirter Spring boat was a vessel designed as a large canoe, right? So those are the bits that they found, and that's there, and that is a waterborne reconstruction, right? A large canoe from the Scandinavian pre-Roman Iron Age site of Hirter Spring in Denmark. It was built sometime around 400 years BC, and the hull and the remains were rediscovered and excavated in 1921 in Denmark. And the boat is the oldest find of a wooden plank ship in Scandinavia, made of planks, right? Not carved out of a tree trunk, but made of planks, right? And this resembles the thousands of petroglyphic images of Nordic and Swedish ships. And in other words, referring to as clinker-built vessel. This was 19 meters in length overall, which from prow to aft, right? And also there's another image I want to show you, which is actually on YouTube, not on YouTube, on Wikipedia, right? Which will help us understand the boats that we've seen today, right? And it's referring to this, that they may have held at least 20 people, were propelled the boat with paddles, and the boat would have weighed an estimated 530 kilograms, making it easily portable by its crew, right? Now, if I can, and interesting enough, what they found on board this boat when they excavated it, right? They found as follows: 131 square shields. They also found 138 iron spearheads, 31 bone or antler spearheads, and 11 single-edged iron swords, all found on this boat, and also the remains, right, of chainmail coats. So, I didn't want to spend too much on this because we're still trying to work on the other bit. But if we type in this again, and we go on to the Wikipedia thing, right, which is there.
HJO.
Okay, hitches. If we go back there and we go there, hitch spring boat, and look at that, guys. Isn't that what we've been seeing?
Yeah.
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 So in other words, those are the representations of Nordic ships, right? And it's saying these are petroglyphs of boats from the Nordic Bronze Age, actually, going into the Iron Age in Scandinavia. So these are exactly the same designs what we've been seeing. And that one there is very similar to Andy's sledge design, except that one actually has three boats, actually 2 boats on board, and actually a boat at the bottom, right? Which is rather interesting. So if these are on average 20 meters long, they're quite substantial boats. So if we go back to what we were talking about, and I'm glad that we've done this now. If we go back to where we were, then that makes the images that we were seeing a little bit more bearable. So if we go back and we think about that there, that design, that could be a sledge, but they're interpreting these.
Yeah. Yes.
They're interpreting these as boats, but actually that design itself is very similar to the Nordic designs. So if we go back to the site that we're actually looking at, these, right, and finally, if I go back to my notes, and if we go back to my notes, and it's saying, so we talked about the Hirschspring boat from Denmark, a clinker-built boat that looks like the ships in these carvings. The Danish boat was a warship because they found loads of, weapons on it with military equipment and iron weapons. On a small rock, 100 meters up in the woods, is naturally the other thing that we actually found. This is 100 meters away from the one that we've set, or that we've just seen, Littlesby, right? So I wanted to bring you that today to sort of give you an introduction on some rock art in Sweden. And then the other challenge was actually introducing rock art in Iron Age Britain, right? And I think the best way we can do that is by starting now. And then obviously in less than 15 minutes, we can examine just briefly some of the stuff that we've been talking about. So rethinking rock art in Iron Age Britain. Rock art in Britain is typically carved on boulders and outcrops in the open landscape in northern parts of the country. And actually in the south, in the southeast, it's mainly chalk anyway. So most of that's going to have disappeared and so on. So the precise chronology of the carving is uncertain, but they are generally thought to have been created in the Neolithic and Bronze Age. However, Carved stones and fragments of carved rock outcrops were occasionally incorporated into Neolithic and Bronze Age ritual structures, right, such as these things, right? But we go on. Although carved stones are subsequently reused in a range of later structures, these relationships are considered coincidental and lacking in meaning. So, but we're talking about the fact that some of these earlier panels have been reused in later sites, i.e. Iron Age sites. Now, back to that illustration, that's a distribution of rock art from prehistory. And naturally, you've got the heavy concentrations in the dark green, and you know, and there's some of them in Cornwall as well. Remembering our peat. So, in a prehistoric sense across Britain, running all the way into the Iron Age, and when we talk about the Iron Age in Scotland, we talk about the Iron Age in Scotland lasting all the way into the 400s. So, you know, that and then we go into the Pictish period proper for a while. So there it says that Britain has a wealth of prehistoric rock art amounting to over 6,500 carved rocks or panels. So on one of those carved rocks, there might be 100 individual things. So individual, there's tens of thousands of individual sort of things that you can see on these, thousands of individual motifs, and the carvings form a sort of school of carved work that we actually find in Ireland, Portugal, Spain, likes of Scandinavia, Denmark, and the likes of Switzerland as well. The carvings are one of the most intriguing aspects of British prehistory, commonly described as cup and ring marks, which are typically these things. But these are about and to be interpreted in later periods, like the Iron Age, from the from the Neolithic onwards. So this whole thing, and we're looking at the Iron Age, right? And there's concentrations in places like Angus and Northumberland, and the reuse of rock art in Iron Age Britain. So the association between cup and ring marks, which are these things, i.e. these things, which we've already done, and thinking about this thing, which is which we've already visited, which is the Grain Bank Souterrain in Orkney, right? And again, looking at those wonderful things from the Neolithic, close brackets. So association between cup and ring carvings and certain Iron Age structures, notably hill forts and souterrains, was first commented in the 1800s. The body of evidence has since grown, and there is now little doubt that Neolithic carvings were frequently reused in the Iron Age. So, this is the problem, right? The problem is, back to what we said about Scandinavia, this stuff was, undoubtedly, most of this was created in the Neolithic period, but may have actually been recreated and copied. And they scoured into this again in the Iron Age to make them relevant to them in the Iron Age, right? So it's making the past relevant. So obviously we've got a Picasso. So what we're going to do, we're going to with that Picasso, we're going to paint over the original colors on that Picasso to make them look like the original colors, right? So what we're doing, we're recreating above the existing. This is what they're saying, right? So the body of evidence is now growing that there is a great idea that lots of this stuff is being recycled and reused in the Iron Age, right? So could the carvings have been used deliberately, and if so, what significance did they hold for the Iron Age communities? This stuff is, and also, without doubt, somewhere in the middle between the Neolithic period, there's the Iron Age between today, right? So the point is, we find these things today, so they would have been visible to the Iron Age people. So why shouldn't they have used these things? And this is what archaeologists are saying. So what they've done is seen the specific sense of seeing these as an element of the Iron Age, right? And it's talking now. This is an interesting fact. Let's just change the image a little bit. We know of at least 5,000 hill forts across Britain. It says that particularly the proportion of a big chunk of them, 3,600 of these. And remember, Iron Age hill forts, bank and ditched enclosures, are created in the obviously the Iron Age. So these things are present somewhere in the Iron Age between 400 years BC and they're still in use by about 200 years AD, right? It's saying that the big quantity of these, right, are known to include carved stones, and it says that that's fairly important, right? There are 217 of these hill forts that we know of so far, that encompass existing within their walls of the hill forts, particularly in places like Northumberland and Scotland, specifically these types of things. So in other words, they've built the hill forts and these things are within them, right, from the Neolithic period, and they're there, they've kept there. So it's almost as if Iron Age people saw these things as important. So they thought, right, we'll keep these, and these will be part of the hill fort. And I think that is again significant. It's like, and they're saying again, another interesting little fact. I know we're diving all over the place in down in the south as well, right? Yes, let's go back to there. There we go. When I say south of Scotland, when we see the cup and ring marks themselves, apparently one site, they put the entrance of one hill fort within meters of existing cup and ring marks that date to the Neolithic period. But the Iron Age people have thought, right, they're important. They've got an important context to us, and we'll leave them there. At this place known as Dodlaw, it says Dodlaw in Northumberland features an area of exposed sandstone bedrock with cup and ring carvings a few meters outside the eastern entrance to the hill fort. So there's so many points you can mention here that when Drina says, please compare this with Iron Age carvings in Scotland, and I thought, right, let's have a little play around with this. So these carvings are there, right? They exist within the environment in the Iron Age, and they're building these great monuments next door to these things. And some of them are at the entranceways, some of them are just outside the entranceways, some are inside the entranceways, right? And they're there. So technically, this is Iron Age art, except it was created in the Neolithic period. Some of it may have been recreated. And to be honest with you, right, you don't need for me to say that some of these might actually represent forts themselves. How do we know that all these carvings actually date, actually truly date from the Neolithic period, right? With what I've said, some of them may actually date from the likes of the Iron Age, and what you're seeing here doesn't. You can't tell me that there doesn't look like an Iron Age hill fort, because it does. So is that created in the Iron Age, right? Or is it just coincidence that was created in the Neolithic period? That's the problem. We're not. Lots of these things expose themselves to they don't get too excited, Roger. They expose themselves to have some meaning within the Neolithic period proper. Now, with this, it says that image. It says large carved rock, which you can see that guy standing next to. You can see there's the rock below it. It says large carved rock at a place known as Old Berwick, situated 6 meters from the entrance to a D-shaped enclosure and a hill fort at Old Berwick, 6 meters away. And the low earthworks of the enclosure are in the foreground, right? You can sort of see, it there. There we go. Hang on, not that there. You can clearly see that there. there is the stone. Now, the point with all of this is that they could have used that stone. They could have broken it up, right? The carved surfaces on that stone. They could have broken that stone up and used it in the defenses, but they chose to make it as part of their Iron Age experience, right? So this is all really, really important stuff. And then they go to say, we've seen this before, by the way. I think we have. This is also in Old Berwick as well, and you can clearly see all the wonderful elaborate motifs on that. Now, again, when we move on again a little bit further, right? This itself, it says this large sandstone outcrop with elaborate carvings is 10 meters outside the Iron Age site, 10 meters outside the southeast entrance to a promontory fort. So when we've already done this before in another way, I've said, look, in the Iron Age, they reused barrows which were in the landscape. So we've got a barrow over there. Oh, that can go by where the entranceway is. Oh, we'll have a couple of barrows inside. We'll just leave them there, right? They left these things there, and we and obviously this is the thing. Some are so clear they may have been recarved in the Iron Age. So that does constitute Iron Age art, right? And then there is another thing as well as, right? There is another thing as well as to make notice of this, that if we go to oh, that's really cute, that one. If we go to this, and we'll mention that last image now. This is one of the souterrains. That is one of the souterrains that has actually been excavated. We actually saw that. We saw the grain house one as well. And that, hang on, not that. That, no, it's not letting me do it. There, is another souterrain. Obviously, the top bits have been left, and you can clearly see that Iron Age souterrain, right, is alongside existing sort of cut holes and surface which has been pecked out in the Neolithic period. So it's very useful to note that in the Iron Age, for example, these souterrains made good use of the rock that had these carvings on, if only incorporating them as well. It goes on to say, just go back to this one here, right? And we'll finish soon as well. So hang on, go there. It says that these souterrains themselves, they're saying that these earth houses, they're frequently found in Scotland and Ireland. We actually get some in the south as well. And it's that idea that maybe some of these are actually reusing stone that are associated with cut and ring marks from the Neolithic period. And if we just look at this last image, which is that, and I've got the corker at the end to show you. So this is a screenshot of something known as Chayton Camp, carved rock showing a symmetrical serpentine groove and cup and ring marks. A rectilinear quarrying marks runs along the top of the rock. And then you're basically thinking that you're looking at this rock and you're thinking, well, maybe these indicated the idea of mapping from an earlier world, and they just incorporated them in the likes of Iron Age monuments thousands of years after they were created, and that makes these really relevant within the Iron Age. And one last thing I wanted to show you before we finish, right? We haven't finished on this topic, are these heads. Now, these are actually Iron Age heads. And I wanted to leave you hanging on this because I think we're going to go to these Iron Age heads again. These are Iron Age heads found in Wiltshire, right? But Iron Age heads like this have been found all over Britain. And there's Iron Age heads that some people believe carved into the rock at a place in South Wales near Llantrisant called Pennacoica. And, oh no, not Pennacoica, Tarandysant, right? and there's carvings like this carved into the rock at Taryn Dyson, and lots of people believe that they're actually, more modern. But the actual look at these images, these actually date from the Iron Age, right? And some of them actually look really lifelike, and we'll actually come back to these again. On that note, we'll finish on that little weird thing, and then that's that. So, right, good. So Roger's not there. Never mind. I was going to say something to Roger. Right, okay then. Anne, do you want to jump in now?
No, I'm a bit overwhelmed with all of it. We're moving around, but it's, as I say, and I didn't quite perhaps understand the association of them being built very close. They're built places very close to where the rocks were. Perhaps taking some concern of that, but I didn't quite follow that bit.
Basically, when you think about it, you've got these big boulders, right, and they've got carvings on them, right. They could have just smashed up those boulders and used them in their defenses, but they've chosen to leave them there. So you've got Bronze Age burial monuments that the earthen mounds, and instead of using the soil from these mounds in their defenses, they just left them there as part of the landscape, as part of the furniture for the Iron Age landscape. And again, when we're thinking of these carved stones, they're left there in memorial of what's happened before and maybe what's happening now. And if you've looked at some of those designs, they look very much as if they're echoing what the hill forts look like. Because again, if we look at that one image in particular, right? If we look at that one image, where is it? Let's just go back, guys. If we look at that one image, that to me looks like a bank and ditched enclosure or a hill fort with an entrance, and all those little things inside might represent buildings to store grain, or one or two of them might be housing, or it might be where there's lots of housing, right? And you're thinking that's a bit odd. Is that Neolithic or is that carved in the Iron Age?
And would it be a map? Would it be a map then?
Well, that certainly looks like
or an image of a, like a drawing of it.
Yeah, that could represent the landscape, and the point is, they may have kept these things nearby because it helps everybody know where everything is within the landscape. Why create a new map when a map already exists?
Yeah.
As you know, some very old maps are pretty useful. Right, anything else, Anne?
No, that was the thing that was confusing me a bit. But thank you very much for that.
That makes sense. Right, okay then. Anything from you, David?
No, thank you. Thank you very much. Very interesting.
Thank you very much, David. Are you staying with us, or are you leaving us now?
I'm going. Thank you. Good night, all.
Night, David. See you next week.
Bye.
Night, David.
Bye-bye.
Night. We'll all have to go over David's for coffee. He's got a proper kitchen there. We'll all pound in his kitchen. Okay, right. Who we got next? Night, Dave. Gina.
Just suppose it's just people messing about. Like doodling.
And why not?
Find out what happens if I hit it with this rock. I know a lot of it looks organised, but some it can't all be. How do you start?
Oh well, I don't think all of it is. It's like so some people. It's like today. Some people might release a record for fun, right? And it goes to #1. And Ultravox releases Vienna, and they take a month recording it, and it doesn't go to #1; it goes to #2. So those are the real artists. And I think What's the Matter You Boy got to #1 that year. But what I'm trying to say as a metaphor is that some people might do this as a proper thing, and other people might do this as it's just a bit of a laugh.
Yeah.
Could be an Iron Age Banksy that just popped up here, there and everywhere.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, it's an Iron Age Banksy that's creating stuff, many Banksys creating stuff over a long period of time. Who's to say? And lots of the art that once existed doesn't exist anymore. We're talking about maybe even the stuff on the rock. Most of that's gone. So the usual rule of thumb is that only 1 to 5% of all our prehistoric landscape exists today.
Can I
That
ask
means that
Sorry,
no,
go on.
you can't. That means that 95% has disappeared. Go on, Gina.
If I went along to those stones and bashed a bit out and made a pattern with it, how would you know when it's been done if it's on the same rock?
Right, okay, right, okay. First of all, you'd probably be arrested. But the point is, I know exactly what you're talking about. I think I'll give you an answer to this, right? When me and Michelle we went to a cave with lots of carvings in there, right? We went to the cave of Sean Catty, right? Which was like in the I think 1500s, I think it was. Sean Catty was going around and you know, he was eventually pardoned, but he was like a Welsh Robin Hood. And he's got this cave, and you go into this cave, and there's carvings in there. Some are clearly done today, and others are clearly done in the 1800s, and some are clearly done in the 1700s, where somebody took a hammer and a chisel to make these things, right? And those look really good, and they're still there to get dead today. Me and Michelle, we had a penknife, and we carved something in the rock. Right, that's probably not going to be there in 50 years' time because it's not going to be as good as the stuff before. So, I think if you put effort into something, it lasts a long time. If you're just one of these people who just does it for a laugh, maybe it's not going to last a long time, and that's how you can tell what's real and what's not.
Well, you can't put a date on it.
No, you can't. No, and unless you've got one saying Adolf Hitler was here in 1986, and you're thinking, right, there's something wrong with the date there. We know Adolf Hitler hadn't been there. Even if there was a date there, it's probably not gonna, you know, it's not gonna tell you much. The problem is in archaeology and history, we always believe if you get like there's a Roman document found from Vindolanda, and it says, oh, you know, I was here on the 14th year of the reign Hadrian. Right, and you think, oh well, he's brilliant. He was there on the 14th year of the reign of Hadrian with the 20th Valley of Vitrix Legion, and then you realise that the 20th Valley of Vitrix Legion wasn't there at the time of Hadrian, right? So, well, who do you believe?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's very difficult to even. I've got a diary, right? I've got a diary. Yesterday, right? I've got a daily diary. Yesterday, I started writing. No, because I didn't write the diary on Saturday and Sunday, right? When I started writing Sunday, I wrote her in Saturday's day. And when I thought, oh my God, I didn't actually write anything there on Saturday. So I actually had to cross out the thing, right? But if I'd have forgot to cross out the thing, all the stuff they did on Saturday, did on Sunday. The problem is you can't believe, and even here, I write things down that I did in the morning that I did at night. So, you know, that's me. And I can't even get it right. So you can't exactly believe everything written down in the past. Okay?
Right.
Right, Rog. Roger, I'll send you the details for the direct debit thing. But anything, Roger.
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, anything you want to say, Rog?
No. That's I'm going to look up that people's hoard thing I mentioned in the archaeology with these rings again, concentric rings from southern Scotland. Let's follow up what you said there to see what we can make of these rings. They come up before in certain places, and I think, well, what the heck are they showing? The planetary something or what? You know, so
well, I want to know exactly what you're on about.
Study. Anyway, thanks. All of you.
Get a name so we can look up that next week. And it's a bit like in the Iron Age, they had these stones that they would have these various different intricate, not the Iron Age, the Neolithic period, these sort of stones, and we didn't know what they were. And there's lots of these things out there. Go on.
Anyway, okay then, folks.
Yeah.
See you next week. All be well with everything.
Hi, Rog.
Have a good week. See you next week.
Keep in touch. Take care. Hope you're all well. Ta-da.
See you, Condom Nose. Ta-da, Rog.
Ta-da. Thanks.
Ta-da, Rog. I can apologise for having to go at Roger. It's our part what we do. Right, okay then. Anyway, the dodgy gets online, and he actually says he fancies you, Margaret. He wants to know where you live.
Help!
And he's called the Dodgy Git.
I seem to attract dodgy gits. That's why.
Yeah, you did. Right, okay then. Right, okay then. What are we going to do next? We've done Drina, we've done Anne, and now we're going to Margaret. Anything else you want to say?
Well, I would imagine most of these cup and ring marks and spirals are on places that are very visible, but I know that there's a couple in the Lake District that I've heard about. I haven't actually seen them because they're not accessible and you can't easily see them because they're right on the top of a one of those glacial erratics that you really have to climb up to see.
Yeah.
So they're not always easily visible.
Take Claire with you and a camera. She'll do it. Your job done. It's easiest. It's over.
You saw the ones at Long, Meg.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
we
saw
did
the one
Meg.
on the rock there, but there's one at Grasmere.
Yeah.
At the car park by the village hall, but you have to clamber right up the top of that glacial boulder to see it. So that wasn't I don't think it was detected until fairly recently.
Yeah, I don't think it was. I'm sure we did photographs of that as well.
That boulder's probably been moved in modern times as well to that position.
Make way for the car park.
Yeah, they probably shifted it, and it was probably on its side at one time.
But it's massive.
Guessing, but
it's huge.
Yeah.
But I always thought there were maybe way markers showing the way to somewhere.
There's that one in Langdale as well. That was only found fairly recently, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's it's only visible in a certain light, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't been up there since. So I used to go up there a lot as a kid, and it wasn't discovered then. So
no, but that definitely shows. Well, they think the Axe Factory, don't they? It showed like the Langdale Pikes on it.
And that's low down and accessible. That one.
Yeah.
And I don't think really protected either, unfortunately.
No.
But don't they look like that one at Newgrange, the spiral design at Newgrange, some of them?
Yes, they do. They certainly do.
So they could be astronomical as well, couldn't they?
They could be to do with anything, but
they just don't know.
We don't know. Well, that wonderful that tomb beginning with a G in Brittany that we did that, and that's got loads of stuff on as well. You know, there's lots of stuff out there. And obviously there's probably lots more to be found, and the other thing as well is you're talking about that one boulder. Maybe if you move the stone around the other way, there might be more carvings there. So
well, there might still be lots underneath grass, mightn't there?
Yeah,
exactly. But these were visible to the Iron Age people, and that's the point. It was part of their landscape, because they wouldn't be still with us if they destroyed them. They didn't destroy them; they kept them with us. And this is this is what I'm on about. The problem with what's going on today is people don't realise that the stuff that they're destroying might have a bearing on the future, and it just doesn't make sense. I just despair sometimes.
You know, you mentioned about carved heads.
Yes.
Can you see this?
We can sort of see a phone. There's lots of those little miniature carved heads.
Those are little heads. I saw them at Peterborough Museum a few weeks ago.
And what date are they from?
They're from the Iron Age.
Send that to me.
Okay.
Send that to me. We'll do these carved heads. I'll write that down. I don't know when we're doing it, but we'll give it a go. We'll give these carved heads a go. Right, carved heads. Right. Anyway, anything else, Margaret?
No, that's my lot.
Right. Okay then. We'll do Judith at the end. And by the way, before we do Judith, right? Judith's got a couple of minutes to work out whilst we talk to Andy. Judith, what television show was this from in the 1970s?
Oh, I can't hear it.
Couldn't hear anything.
Oh, you didn't hear that?
No.
Have a guess.
Yeah, you'll have to guess in a minute. Andy knows. Andy, anything you want to say?
No, I find all these carvings really interesting because I love the fact that modern art is considered to be kind of high art when it becomes more abstracted from direct figurative work. And you're looking at all this is all stylized and meaningful and things. So if we judge it by our standards, which of course you shouldn't do, but it would suggest that it is more elaborate and more sophisticated than we're giving it a lot of credit for, which it probably is. And trying to work out a meaning, trying to work out a meaning is so difficult because, of course, we have no context. So it's because you're right. Some of them like that definitely look like a map, on that stone of a hill fort, but that might have just, of course, been coincidence as well. But
we got them associated with hill forts as well, so that's another thing. So we got hill fort, something that looks like a hill fort, might not be a hill fort. It couldn't be. It was done, maybe done in the Neolithic period, may have been done in the Iron Age, right? But there is a sorry to interrupt, Alan. There is a point that say, for example, people in the past looked at the work of Picasso. They thought, oh, they're not very good at art, are they? And then it's just like there's I think he's a Swedish artist called Carl Larsson. I used to like his work, and that was I thought, oh right, yeah, that was really nice stuff. But some people were saying, oh, that's pretty childlike. He was a top class artist. And the point is, we do it today, and that. Oh yeah, did I tell you this a few years ago? Me and my Kerry Ann, we went to the National Museum in Wales, and I really wish I'd have written down the name of the painting, but we saw a painting there, and I said, look at that photograph on the wall, and then we looked at it and we thought, there's something not quite right about this, and there was like it was in a gallery with all these paintings, and this was an artist from hundreds of years ago. And they had managed to create a glass with water in it, and it looked like the real bloody thing, right? So if I want to compare that with somebody's idea of drawing a glass today, right? The glass today that's being painted is absolute not like this one that this person made so realistic, right? So it's not about us saying that's not very good. It should be us saying, what is that about, right? And this is what we do with Picasso. What is Picasso about? What is the art that he's creating about?
That was, I was going to say the same thing you mentioned before, actually, whether it's Neolithic as well. It was the question with Longmeg as to whether it was carved on the stone in situ or whether they found that stone already carved and put it there. So obviously being a Bronze Age circle, but
and that goes equally to the point, did Iron Age people move these things about? Obviously you're not going to move an Iron Age thing carved directly into bedrock amount. You're not going to be able to do that, but if you've got boulders and stuff, you might move them about and thinking, therefore, hang on a minute, therefore it makes it more exciting. So
magic stones, that
stone itself was over there, but they moved it over here, and you're thinking, they brought the stone to the entrance of the hill fort. Oh my God, that's even more amazing.
Don't they think that the stone with the carving on at Longmeg, the big one, don't they say that is older than the rest of the circle?
It's a different stone entirely from it. But I think possibly because of that, they've suggested that it may have been brought there and therefore may have been carved beforehand. But it might not have been. They might have just thought, oh, that's a nice shaped stone, we'll stick it up there and let's carve some rings on it while we're at it.
It's really weird. Who knows exactly?
Imagine if there was a Salvador Dali type back then.
Well, why not?
Might have been. Why
not? Who says that art? Who says that the perspective and the idea of art has actually changed? Maybe it's the same thing,
Signor Ring will come and do some work for you.
Yeah, because he does rings.
Yeah. But it is interesting how that the common themes, and some of them are subtly different, and that's something that we don't take much notice of. Think, it's cup and ring. Well, is it? Or are those slightly different?
And the idea of the cup and ring in the Neolithic period was different in the Bronze Age, as in different in the Iron Age.
Exactly. Yeah.
Did they ever have pigment in them?
Of course they did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we got evidence for that all over the shop. Yes, we do.
Really?
It's just that the other thing as well is this is the point, right? This used to happen with photographs. Like I used to. I don't know, depending where you had it developed, you might have a photograph in the past, right? And it might have like a color on it, red, or there might be something on it, and that really fades and disappears. And you're left with a photograph thinking, well, what what? But if the other stuff was in there, you'd be able to understand what it was on about. It's the same with the I had a box with 10,000 pieces and a Sherman tank design in the middle of a green woodland, right? It was this tiny tank, 10,000 piece jigsaw, right? I think I found one bit of the tank and I thought, right, I know that's a Sherman, I just left it. But the point is, I knew that I was looking for a bit of a Sherman tank, right? But with these things, you don't know what you're looking for. And that's the if you knew what you were looking for, it's easy, but you don't know what you're looking for. That's the problem. And there's stuff that's missing. So you within what you're looking for, exactly. And the other thing as well is about looking at the angle and as wonderful Judith mentioned, right? We're going to come to you in a minute, Judith. The message that she typed up, there's gone. But anyway, Judith mentioned about is it about looking at people from from when there's shadows and stuff at midwinter? And I think maybe it is.
Something else to consider as well is that when you do your drawing and you're working and in sculpture as well, to create depth, you have heavier lines and lighter lines. So anything lighter, like maybe a bit of foreground or foliage to give it some depth and frame the pictures and things, would have all have gone because they've eroded away.
If the frame's gone, exactly. I used to years ago to try and deal with my wife leaving and stuff. I actually took all her paints and used all the really expensive tubes of paints, which were like £50, £60 each of these tubes of paints, massive quality, right? So I actually started painting trees, right? And they were like they were textured trees. I would do the tree trunk that would feel really good with all the stuff that she had left. But the thing is, if you cut a bit of that thing up, you wouldn't know it was part of a tree, because my color trees were purple or black. So we think we can detect what things mean today. No, we can't, because we really don't. We can't even work things out today. So sometimes we can't even work out why there's a Banksy painted somewhere. Right. That's different than what the Banksy's about, right?
Yeah.
It is. Because you can have a Banksy painted on a certain wall, right? And you haven't got a Banksy painted over there. There's a girl with a flower, right? So why has Banksy painted the girl with the flower there? Why didn't he paint it over there? We might know what the girl with the flower means, but we don't really know why it's painted there, and why, and not the meaning might be what we need to work out.
Yep.
God, that's so deep. My God. And Judith, we're over to Judith. What was this? Which television program was this from?
I can't hear it. Honestly, I can't hear it.
Yeah, we can't hear anything when you're doing it.
Here we go.
No, it starts. You hear the first, and then nothing. It's really weird. The mic's cutting it out for some reason.
You can't hear that?
No, not at all.
Nope, nothing.
No.
Absolutely nothing.
Thanks anyway.
I can't believe it.
It's clangerist.
It's a clanger. This clangers.
That's the one. I couldn't think of the word.
But you can hear this. Bow down, Mr. Harry Rama, Harry Krishna.
I can hear you.
Hear you, but not the tambourine. Not really there.
You can't hear the tambourine.
No, it's cutting it out completely.
Can't hear the tambourine. Very strange.
Oh, hang on, one last thing.
No, part of it we heard.
Yeah, just
I know it's the Viking thing, but yeah. Kirk Douglas.
We could do guess that tune, right? So
take all night.
Yeah. Judith, anything you want to say, love?
There's nothing I can add to any of that, is there? Nothing at all.
Nothing at all. Okay, one thing I'm going to say is obviously one thing I haven't discussed with anybody at all before we finish. Over Christmas, we will be taking a 2-week break over Christmas, and so the last one this year will be Tuesday the 17th. Oh, hang on a minute. Is it Tuesday the 17th? Tuesday the 17th. Yeah. Is it?
10th today, I think.
It's Tuesday the 17th.
Yeah, so it'll be next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we can't do the 24th of December because that,
Yeah, got to be packing stockings. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the last one this year will be next week, and then we will put 2 recordings online,
Okay.
right? And then the other Tuesday then is the 31st, which is New Year's Day. So New Year's Eve. So we can't do that either. So
Yeah.
one thing I would say in advance is I will be chasing you for your monies anyway. So just bear that in mind. So
Right.
So anyone want to say anything before we finish?
No, it was really interesting. Thanks.
Those fighting ships in Sweden, those warships.
Yeah.
Going back to Sweden, who were they warring against, do you think?
Kurt Douglas. To be honest with you, I don't think they would have been. They wouldn't have been warring. We don't know whether it was warring in the modern sense. That's the thing. So yeah, that is the problem.
Okay.
We don't know. Right. Okay then. Anyone got anything else they want to say?
Yes, night.
No.
Night.
Thank you and good night.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you.
Say good night to Judith, Andy, and Gina, and Margaret. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon. Thank you, guys. See you
Thanks,
next week.
Carl. Bye, all.
Bye.
Take care. Night night.
Yeah.
Night night,
Night-night.
Judy. Hey, Jude. Night night, Anne.
Night.
We'll have to get you with your penny whistle. That'd be good. Right. Okay. Okay. You know what? Right. I can't work this out because there was a message up here there was a message in the chat, but don't forget everyone to like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate that. And if we can do this, which is if anyone wants to send a donation, which is buy me a coffee.com, and really appreciate any donations and send them over to me. And I really, really appreciate that. So thank you very, very much for that. And yes, and glad those that have joined online and the dodge you get. So I'm going to call it a day. So don't forget to like and subscribe. So I'm going to go with the chat box. Nothing in the chat box. Nothing is here. Nothing in the chat box. Nothing is here. Nothing in. I'm going to try and find this message because I'm a bit worried that it's gone. Chat box there. Nothing in that chat box 1. Nothing in that chat box 2. Nothing in that chat box 3. Nothing in that chat box 4. I can't see it. The messages in chat box, I can't see it. Yeah, because I got it on the screen on Zoom. Nothing in the chat box 1 there. Nothing in the chat box 2. Nothing in the chat box 3. Nothing in the chat box 4. Nothing in the chat box 5. Nothing in the chat box 6. Nothing in the chat box 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, nostalgie.